What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. Let's go ahead and get into this episode of Raising Kanan that came on. I believe this was episode 8, and I gotta say I enjoyed it. It was a good episode. We opened right up at the funeral. Of course, you know, last week Nicole unfortunately had passed away, so we opened up, you know, right at the funeral. It's a funeral scene. Juke and Kanan are kind of waiting outside the church and just observing, and then, you know, Juke makes the decision to go on in. She walks in. I guess she wants to pay her respect. Of course, when she walks in, the parents, Nicole's parents, spot her. And then I will say, I heard a lady who was saying that, you know, whispering about what had happened, and said that Nicole had passed away of a heart defect, and it was so sad. You know, really, we know the truth. But anyway, the daddy kind of comes over and he's trying to like kind of usher Jukebox to go before the mama see her and turn up and go berserk, which she did. She walks right over there. She tells, you know, the people, get them two out. Let them two, those two, they have to go. You know. And so, you know, they don't make too much of a scene. So, you know, they kind of leave easily. Jukebox turns around. She leaves, walks out the door. Kanan kind of hangs back, and he just lets them know, hey, you know, she really did love y'all's daughter. So we saw a little bit of Julia this week. Julia is at the house, and she getting her behind whooped. And I mean, she getting whooped to the point where oh boy, her husband took off his belt, honey. So she goes running outside and runs to the garage, and who was in there? None other than Rock, standing up in there, y'all, with the piece. And she's standing there pointing it. The husband comes behind, run behind Julia, and Rock says a few words to him, and she pulls the trigger. And I think she hit him like 3 times. So, you know, she simply just executed him. And she, you know, tells Julia, you know, call the police. Tell them that, you know, some tools and stuff missing. And let that be that. The next scene we get is the Detective Malcolm, I believe his name is. That's Omar Epps' character. We get Omar Epps' character, the detective. He is with the white girl cop, and they are observing somebody's body, like I guess a crime scene or whatever. It's somebody's body, somebody who has passed away from this Mo Better Blues. So, you know, the white girl cop is like, we got to find out, you know, where this stuff is coming from. And so, you know, of course, that's going to be their mission to, you know, get to the bottom of it. Speaking of the Mo Better Blues, we move right on to sitting at the table with Rock, Lulu, and Marvin. They sitting there, they're discussing their inventory and how they're getting low on their supply. And then furthermore, they discussing the blue caps and wondering where they came from, who's selling them, who is, you know, taking out all their customers with this bad stuff. So, you know, Marvin's sitting there as if he don't know nothing about it and acting like he just, you know, has not a clue. And when we know he is guilty. But anyway, he, you know, exited, and then we get Lulu and Rock sitting at the table, and Rock is just sitting there, and she's looking at Lulu, and she just trying to figure out, you know, well, I guess Lulu had told her about the conversation with the other guy, Unique. And so she just trying to figure out, well, what you told Unique, you know, I want to know why, you know, he after you so hard. So Lulu was kind of aggravated by it, and he was like, you know what, I'm loyal, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Let that be that. So on the flip side, Unique is also worried about these blue caps and wondering where they came from. And so he's thinking that maybe Rock and her crew is responsible for it. But then the dude who works for him was like, no, I don't think she the one doing it. Which was correct, because she ain't. She don't know nothing about it. Still trying to get information on these blue caps, the mystery of the blue caps and the Mo Better Blues and the Mo Better Blues. Malcolm and the white girl cop, they go out to the hood, and they, you know, get in touch with the CI who is, you know, on that stuff, and they don't have to do nothing but pay him a couple of dollars, and he goes singing, you know, telling it all, and he points them in the direction of, you know, somebody who is responsible for selling the stuff. So, you know, Malcolm and White Girl Cop, they go right on to the club where they can find the boy. And none of the you know who it was. It was the boy from last week who I told y'all was going to be a problem. I had a feeling about him, how he was looking. He was sitting there in that yellow sweatshirt when Kanan was cooking that stuff, looking crazy. But they find him in the club, and, you know, they hem him up, put him in the cuffs, and by the take him to jail, they let him know, hey, we got a warrant for your arrest, and, you know, it's 6 counts of murder on here and selling and blah, 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 and you going to jail. So, you know, he don't want none of that. So he's like, you know, well, it ain't me, and he's snitching. Come on now. You know, you supposed to be the hood nigga. Come on now, you supposed to be the hood figure, you know, and you sitting there snitching. So he goes singing like a bird, and he tells Detective Malcolm that it was Kanan Stark who is responsible. He the one who cooked the stuff up. So, you know, Malcolm like, what? He's 15. He's like, you know, you telling me a 15-year-old kid is responsible for all this stuff on the street? And so, you know, dude is like, yeah, you know who his mama is? Come on now, you know who his mama is, Omar. But anyway, White Girl Cop, she's like, you know, they let him go. They let the guy go, the snitch go. And then White Girl Cop's like, you know, she ready to get at it. She's like, okay, let's go pick up Kanan. Let's go pick up, you know, the guy. And so Omar, you know, knowing what he know, that he the daddy. He's like, hey, slow down. You know, we can't go at it like this. You know, I'm gonna do some, you know, investigating on my own. So, you know, I think she was a little bit suspicious of that. But, you know, Malcolm can't, you know, just go over there arresting his son. So, Lulu is at the studio, and he is meeting up with Puff Daddy stepson, Albie Shore's son. His name is Quincy. I do not know his character name, so I just got to call him Quincy. So he meeting up with Quincy, and, you know, he trying to work out a deal because he really trying to get into this music stuff. And I think he kind of like he's kind of like a ghost character where he, you know, he trying to be legit, I think. And I think this music thing is a way of him being legit, or a way of him getting to the point where he can be legit. So, you know, he trying to take certain spots, certain steps, and certain strides to, you know, be really into it. So he meets up with Quincy, and he's basically forcing Quincy to sign and come to an agreement, since, you know, Lulu is the one who's funding everything anyway. So Jukebox, poor thing. I mean, baby girl is toe up over her girlfriend Nicole. You know, she's standing outside these people's house watching. I don't know who don't notice a black girl standing there watching their house. But anywho, she's standing there watching, and she sees Nicole's parents, you know, get a taxi. I mean, it was so quick for them to get a taxi. Taxi! They got right in. But no problem with them catching no taxi. But Nicole's parents leave, and then she looks around, and what does she do? She goes across the street, and she breaks into these people's house. And when I say, I had to just remember for a minute that this was the 90s, because I'm like, well, where is this? Why the alarm ain't went off? But I guess they ain't had no alarm. So Jukebox, she breaks in, she go all the way up the stairs, go to Nicole's room, and, you know, she in there, and I'm just so nervous, like, girl, why is you in people's house? This is gonna end up bad for you, sis. She finds the tape that her and Nicole had made at the mall of them singing. And so I'm like, okay, good, you got the tape. Just get the tape and go. Please, just get it, put it in your book bag, and go get out of there. What does she do? She put the tape in the VCR and plays it. And I'm like, no, don't let it play. Then people is going to hear that music on the TV, and you're going to be in trouble. Get out of there. Eject that tape and get out of there, girl. So Jukebox continues to watch the tape, and she is just breaks down crying. I mean, oh my gosh, the tears were flowing, and it really had, you know, did something to me too, because I'm like, girl, she is really hurting. But, you know, she get too comfortable, because I'm like, girl, don't cry. Cry there. Go to your own house and cry, girl. But, you know, she's Goldilocks, you know, done came into the 3 Bears house and got comfortable. So, you know, she sits there and she crying at the people's house. Yeah. Meanwhile, back in the hood, Malcolm, the detective, pulls over Rock in her white Range Rover, and he's like, hey, we need to go somewhere, we need to talk right now. So you know, Rock in her fashion, she kind of giving him, you know, some, you know, a little lip about it, but he was like, hey, we need to talk, and I'm serious. So Detective Malcolm tells Rock that Kanan is the one responsible on the streets for them blue caps, to which, you know, she ain't happy about. So they kind of just start to discuss their past, because obviously Detective Malcolm wants Kanan to know that he is his father, which I think he has kind of, you know, an ulterior motive behind that, because, you know, he's sick, and I think he just want to know if Kanan bone marrow gonna match up with his. So, you know, that's what I think about him. But anywho, you know, maybe he just want to get to know the boy before he you know, go down with this sickness, who knows. But anywho, they discuss their past, and it sounds as though Rock may have been underage and Malcolm had a different impression. They discussed DEFCON, who I believe was, you know, the major guy in the drug gang who Rock, you know, was dating or whatever. And Detective Malcolm brings up DEFCON, and Rock is like, yeah, but you know, DEFCON, you know, he plays to the left. What? Say what now? He do what? What that mean? Play to the left. He plays to the left. What? So I guess, so then she explains that playing to the left, he had a little sugar in his tank, y'all. He had a little sugar in his tank, and he wasn't messing with her, and he knew that Kanan wasn't his, but he let the streets go on thinking that he had not Rock up, you know, because it was good for his image, because he was playing to the left and not playing to the right. So basically, Malcolm gives Rock an ultimatum and says, hey, you got to tell Kanan. If you don't tell him, I'm going to tell him. Or I'm going to tell the streets that he a cop kid, and then you know what's going to happen then. And it's just, so she was like, oh, you would let him get her? He's like, no, ain't nobody gonna mess with him. But you know, he kind of puts the ball in her court, like, hey, you need to tell him that I'm his father, or you know, he gonna find out a different way. Back at home, Kanan is in trouble, because you know you're in trouble when your mama call you and she say your full name. Rock came in there, Kanan, Elijah Stark. I didn't know that was Kanan's name. I did not know Kanan's name was Elijah. But she's like, Kanan, Elijah Stark, you get down here right now. So Kanan come down there, and you know he in trouble. But Rock give it to him straight up. Let him know that, you know, she know he been out here in the streets, going behind her back, doing stuff that he ain't had no business doing, trying to be in the game when he don't need to be in the game, and that he out here with Marvin. And Marvin don't even, you know, the wrong one to be mixing with anyway. And she let it be known that, you know, back in the day, Marvin was kind of, you know, messing up, and he was getting high on his own stuff, which landed him in the jail. And that's why, you know, it was clear that that's the reason why she doesn't trust him, you know, or give him the respect that, you know, she gives the other brother, you know, because she does treat Marvin differently than she treats Lulu. But Kanan and Rock go on with their conversation, and, you know, she's saying how she has had to clean up all his mistakes, which he has been messing up a lot. And now I'm understanding why he really took to Tariq, because Kanan was dumb. I mean, he was really doing some dumb stuff. I mean, Tariq was a genius compared to him, really. So Rock has to go as far as to tell Kanan that she is the one who murdered his friend. To which, I mean, this really took him by surprise. But she basically says, you know, that she had to do it because it either was going to be him, or, you know, it was going to be Kanan, because basically the streets need a body, you know what I'm saying, that it was going to come to somebody, and she didn't want her son to be hurt. So, you know, Kanan, that don't sit too well with Kanan, you know, he gets up and he goes, so, you know, they not on good terms right now. So Unique pulls up in his black Beamer, and he pulls up to like this fancy hotel. He parks right in the front. I don't know where he was going, but anyway, he goes in, he leaves his key with the valet, and then he goes upstairs or whatever. And then this Saab pulls up. So I'm like, well, who was that? Well, it's Lulu pulling up in the Saab. I'm like, not the Saab, honey. But Lulu gets out. He go into the hotel, you know, following behind Unique. he pays the valet, kind of tricks the valet a little bit, talking about Unique was his homeboy. But anyway, he slides the valet a few dollars, and then he goes out to Unique's car, and he steals something out his car. I think it was his jacket. But anywho, that turns out to be problems for him later on. Rock, after she done took care of Kanan, she goes to Marvin, and she goes there to check on him and check on the work that he's doing. Basically, you know, he had some people who was in there fixing up the little spot that they were going to be using. And Rock basically excuses everybody. She clears the room. Everybody get out. I mean, clears the room. And so it's just her and Marvin there. And then she clears Marvin, because she gets Marvin together, lets him know that, you know, that she is so disappointed in him, that she knows all about the blue cab, that she knows all about him, you know, going along, getting Kanan into stuff, and she's not happy with him. So, I mean, it comes down to it. She says that she's basically done with him, and she tells him, you know, go home, get whatever stuff you got, you give it to Lulu, and I'm done with you. Done with you. And basically, I don't want to see you no more. I don't want to see you no more, Marvin. I don't want to ever see you no more, Marvin. You know. So I was like, dang, girl, you don't want to ever see your brother no more? I mean, I get cutting him out of the business or whatnot, like, because you don't want him, you know, to be the downfall. But dang, you don't want to see your brother? Meanwhile, while Rock is handling Marvin's daughter still at them people's house, Jukebox is still at Nicole's house, sitting in her room, laying on top of her typewriter, sitting at her desk looking crazy. She goes through her book bag, and she finds the letter that Nicole, well, I think it was like a little note. She finds a little note that Nicole had left for her that said Laverne on the front. And, you know, she's sitting there still in her feelings and crying. Well, I'm still getting nervous, because I'm just like, girl, please get out of there. The daddy comes up the stairs, because obviously they done came back and figured out that somebody done broke into their house, because she broke their window. So the daddy spots Laverne, and he's like, Laverne, you gotta get out of here. Come on, you gotta get out of here, Laverne. And Laverne just sitting there in her feelings and won't move. And I'm like, girl, please move, please go. He's trying to help you. Because I really do feel like the daddy is a little bit nicer, or, you know, a little bit understanding than the mama. I kind of feel like the daddy had kind of come to terms with, you know, the situation with Laverne and Nicole, and the mama just, you know, wasn't gonna accept it at all. So I do feel like the daddy, he's lost his daughter. He don't want a lot of drama, and he does know that Nicole, you know, cared about Laverne. So he kind of was trying to look out for her a little bit. So, you know, he's like telling her, you know, you gotta go, because they have called the police. Well, Nicole, racist mama, comes up the stairs, and she spots her, and she's, get out of here, you get out of here, you trash. And she throws the blue cap at her, and she's like, you take that back to your ghetto. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I knew that mama was racist. The cops come up the stairs, and Jukebox is arrested. They put her in cuffs, and she doesn't seem to resist. I guess she's just at such a low point that she just doesn't even care what's going to happen to her. Later on, they do end up releasing her, because they get a call over the radio when they're taking her in, getting directions to let her go. So they do release her. Kanan goes looking for Navita, and she's not there. The next door neighbor tells him that, you know, that her and her sister were taken into foster care, and it turned out that the mama had, you know, passed away and, you know, been gone for over a month. Oh my goodness, they didn't know for a month that the mama was gone. Oh, that's tragic. But anyway, they go into foster care, and the neighbor kind of says, you know, hey, it's for the best thing. So, you know, Kanan is kind of told up about that. Lulu and his chick is in the bed. I do not know the girl's name. All I know is she famous sister, because she's sitting in the bed and she talking Lulu head off about her brother. Her brother this, her brother that. We need to do this for my brother. I don't want him to be no one-hit wonder. You know, whatever. So, you know, Lulu just like, you know, slow down or whatever. Like, he ain't trying to hear all that. But, you know, he's like, you know, it's never enough for you. So I think he kind of, you know, finally realizing that, you know, she ain't worth a damn. Rock being all about her businesses, you know, trying to get everything back on track. So she's meeting with the new supplier, who is Julia's cousin, because you know she wasn't just doing Julia that favor for nothing. So Julia put Rock in touch with her cousin. So he must be a big deal, because they sitting there eating lunch or dinner or whatever it is. I mean, he cutting up his, you know, steak, enjoying his meal, and Rock sitting there talking like she the bomb.com, and he really don't even care. You know, couldn't care less what she talking about, and you know, just letting her go on and on like she the bomb.com when he really knows she not. So he kind of reveals to her, well, hey, we've been following you and we seen you talking to a cop. And so, you know, she let him know, hey, that's not a problem, and you know, he on my payroll, this and that. That's gonna be real interesting. Meanwhile, Unique is up to no good. He's getting his crew together. They loading up like they about to do a drive-by. They putting, you know, their guns and everything in the trunk, and then they also look like they about to do something. I didn't know what they was doing. They had like the bottle or whatever, but you know, I guess I almost thought it was a bomb or something. But you know, we see what they did with that later. Moving right along, Kanan and Jukebox talk, and Jukebox lets it be known to Kanan that, you know, she knows how Nicole had passed, that, you know, she took the blue cap out of her book bag. Kanan really feels bad about it, and Jukebox says, you know, it's not your fault, and she doesn't blame Kanan for it, you know. Because I kind of thought there was going to be some trouble between the two of them. Although I know that they, you know, were close. Because they were close on the Power series, you know. But I did think that she was going to give him some grief about that. But she says that she doesn't blame him at all. Which, you know, it ain't his fault. You know, that Nicole was a thief. So finally, the episode comes to basically a close. And this is when it gets good. Lulu is sitting at his house. He pours himself a stiff drink, honey. He puts on the record, and he says he's chilling. Rock calls him and leaves a message. I think she said something like batter up or something like that. I don't know what that means. Probably some kind of code or something. But he basically was not trying to call her back. He was like, hey, I'm off. Like, to himself, chilling. Well, then you know Unique and his crew was up to no good. So they pull up outside and throw the fire bomb into the house. The house catches on fire. And then, you know, Lou is trying to, you know, seek cover from the fire. And then they start spraying him with the bullets. You know, because the guy outside says, light it up. So, you know, they shooting. Lou manages somehow to get a gun and return fire, but you know, it was all in vain, because they throw another fire thing into the house, and the fire just is in flames at this point. So it was not looking good for my boy at all. I will say that I watched a Breakfast Club interview with the actor, and he had mentioned that, you know, he loved the role, and that episode 8 and 10 were his favorite. So it kind of told me, okay, with him saying that, I'm like, okay, he gonna make it to episode 10. So I wasn't too worried that, you know, Lou wasn't gonna be all right. But the brother come down the street, Marvin, because I guess he was coming, you know, to turn his stuff in like Rock had ordered him to. So he comes down the street, and you know, Unique's crew is outside. They start spraying him coming down the street. And then, you know, one thing, if Marvin ain't gonna do one thing, it's one thing he always gonna do. He gonna wreck a car. So he done wrecked another car, running the car into the back of a, you know, parked car on the street. You know, remember when he wrecked that Mercedes at the stash house? But anyway, he wrecked another car. And so, you know, when he comes to finally, then he realizes what is going on. And he rushes into the house and saves his baby brother. And he's able to carry Lou to safety. And I haven't seen the preview for next week, but I was hearing other people, you know, on social media say that they saw the preview for next week, and that Lou was clearly in the preview. So hopefully, you know, Lou is not too badly hurt, because he is a character that I think I like, and that I think has a lot of potential. So that was pretty much the episode. I am enjoying this show. Let me know what you thought about the episode down in the comments. As always, don't do nothing you're gonna have to explain, because you know your girl Chrissy explains it all. Peace.